So explain to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarian's all about. Hey, it is Larry Sharpe here, Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. The brand is strong. We are drinking coffee here. Why am I doing this? Why are you watching me? Because it matters. We have to realize something. Yes, without question, this is a presidential year and the presidential elections matter. But not just that. On top of that, in addition to that, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of libertarians running across the country, trying their best at the local level to still make action, to still make impact, to still make things happen. And that's why we're doing it. And if you care about that, you've got to go out there. You've got to like, you've got to comment, you've got to share. We have to grow our media impact. And we only do that by you liking, commenting, and sharing, and doing all those things to grow our own social media so that we can make more impact. But I am very lucky today. Today I have with me a man who has been rocking and rolling for a long time, a man who's on the road already, covering his state, business, and also politics, trying to get stuff done to the best of his ability. The man himself, Anthony Welti. How are you, sir?
Welcome to me to New York, all the way on the live stream, man. Thank you for hosting these and bringing all the libertarians together. This is awesome.
We are coast to coast. That's what we are. Absolutely. Yeah. Coast to coast.
What, as the song says, West Coast is the best coast, though. So don't forget it.
Well, don't forget that New York is the biggest, coolest city in the world. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying, yes. You know, not that I'm biased at all. Not that I'm biased.
But we have a giant needle out here in Seattle. So
that's true. I've seen your needle. I have. I have. Yes. I have seen the needle. It is impressive. It's true. But you've always got rain. Right? Look, it's like raining now, isn't it, or something?
Almost. I am outside today joining you guys as I'm full-time on the campaign trail. So, but we got some nice weather here in Washington right now for a change. It's a little overcast.
I love it. I love it. So I guess you've been an activist for several years. And then you decided to take the plunge. And a plunge that for some people will seem like an odd plunge. Like you're not saying, I'm going to run for governor or I'm going to run for senator, something like that. You've decided that now is the time for you to run for insurance commissioner of Washington State. Why that and why now?
Well, I mean, it's obviously the most talked about position, and you know, the most popular thing is going to get me the most publicity. And
who doesn't want to be insurance commissioner? Yes.
No, when I decided to get involved beyond activism and people were kind of starting to recruit me a little bit for running for office, I didn't want to fall victim to the just raise your hand to run for office. I wanted to do something I was passionate about, but but equally importantly that I'm credible and I'm knowledgeable about. So insurance reform, healthcare reform, that's something I'd been focusing on quite a bit as an individual and leading into activism. And it's been a great time being out on the campaign trail across the state here for almost a year full time now, you know, sharing our ideas for what's going to make the world more prosperous and free.
I love that. But insurance commissioner, like the average person, I know you're joking about how sexy it is, right? But everyone knows what a governor does, usually poorly. Everyone knows what a senator does, usually poorly. But why insurance commissioner? And I want to bring this up because a lot of people don't see the value in what you're doing. And I love what you said. You said something you're passionate about, which if you're going to run for office, you got to be passionate about it or you're going to fail, right? You've got to say this matters to me or you're going to fail, right? So I'm glad you're passionate. But second, things like this, very often, this is where you can make real impact. Things that people don't get, you can make impact, affect people's lives. And then they go, oh my God, this libertarian stuff, it kind of actually works. Tell me where your head was.
Well, my thing is just trying to provide solutions right away that are going to impact the lives immediately. So while the left and the right want to argue in the legislature about what laws they're going to pass over our life, there's things I can do as an insurance commissioner that doesn't require legislative authority, that I could go in to help reduce costs, to make business flow easier, which is going to make the insurance market healthier for consumers and insurance companies. So we can do that free from the two-party system when I get elected in November. And I'm looking forward to doing it because things are broken. And it's obvious. Everybody understands that the healthcare and insurance industry is broken. So this is an area where we can shine with the solutions that we've been talking about for so many years. And doing it on a statewide scale gives me a microphone that we haven't had in this state as a Libertarian Party.
But you said something that I liked a lot. You said you could help out business and still make the insurance field, still powerful and strong while you're still helping out business. I think most people think those two things can't go together.
Well, in all areas of our life, we know that competition makes things better, right? Competition breeds excellence. We see it in the sports world constantly. So the more products out there, the more health insurance companies out there, the more car insurance companies out there, the better it'll be for the consumer, right? We can go into the grocery store and choose between 60 kinds of cereal, but when it comes to things like health insurance, you get stuck with with what your employer is offering. So competition breeds excellence, and if we can do that and start bringing in these ideas to really make the market challenge itself, it's going to make things better for us because we're the ones that are going to drive that demand.
So with that in mind, do you have a couple of specific, I'm sure COVID shook things up. People got scared. A lot of businesses, I'm sure, are going to be going under. Insurance is going to be restructured. I'm sure that's going to happen. But prior to COVID, did you have a couple of issues that were just like your big issues?
Yeah, well, one of them is abolishing a mandatory credit check. I've been talking about that for a couple of years. So a few years ago, the state insurance commissioner made it mandatory that once every 3 years, a home and auto policy is get a mandatory credit check.
So hold on, you mean the individual policy holder?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So when your policy comes up for renewal for your auto insurance, if you'd seen a job loss or a health issue and maybe your credit started tanking, maybe you made a poor choice or two and added a little more debt to your life than maybe you should have. A lot of companies pull credit. And what happened is when he mandated that law, it made it so that every 3 years you're at risk of seeing a rate increase if your credit had changed, where previously it might get checked once at issuance and then only checked later on if your credit had gotten better, which would then have the positive effect of lowering your rate. So that's one thing. Bringing back memberships for gun liability here in the state of Washington.
I want to stay on that first piece, right? You talked about, so you're saying that an insurance company now has to check your credit every 3 years, whether they wanted to or not.
Yep.
So the government basically said, let's hope that we can raise insurance rates and not blame the insurance company.
Yeah, and it's going to make us all kind of equally miserable, which is what these laws do. Because previously, the insurance agent, they could have a one-on-one conversation with their client and say, "Hey, what life changes have you had? Have you bought a house? Have you had a baby? Did you pay off a car? Right?" And then they would change rates appropriately and make policy recommendations. Which is why you have an
agent, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
You have that one-on-one, you pick your agent, and you get whatever insurance you want for your own life. Right? Makes sense.
Yep. So now with the COVID crisis, right, as we see, record unemployment or leading to it, people's credit's going to take a hit. So as we come out of this virus here and the economy is not doing great, people are going to see rate increases, even if they have been driving less and having less car accidents.
Right. So they're going to be driving less and paying more. I got it. Okay. Yeah. Another giveaway to insurance companies. Okay. Yeah. Go to your 2A piece. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. That was interesting for me. Keep going.
Yeah. That one's I've been working on for a long time. It's one of the reasons why I'm running, actually. And then something on the opposite end of that, something that I hadn't known about was memberships for gun owners. So responsible gun owners that go out and want to buy a membership program for legal defense. Okay. These programs would offer things very similar coverage to what a roadside assistance would offer for like bond, right? If you end up in a car accident and have to go to jail for some reason, Roadside assistance offers bond coverage, so it gets you out of jail. It offers legal assistance, so you can call and get advice. The gun insurance programs work the same way. If you discharge your firearm in a self-defense situation, there's a chance you're going to end up in the court system.
Right.
So
if you're
right
in New
after
York, you are going to get in the court system. It's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
So the idea is call 911, get the police on their way after you discharge your firearm, and then call your legal defense membership and make sure that they're walking you through this process to make sure that you're well protected and you have due process. Well, the state insurance commissioner banned those in the state of Washington, and thousands of gun owners started reaching out to me. I didn't think I was going to have to talk about the Second Amendment in an insurance race. And he unilaterally, without an RCW or without one of the internal, what we call WACs here in Washington, made a public policy that made these policies
Tell everybody
illegal.
what an RCW is.
So RCW is the legal law of the state that's passed by the state legislature. And then each internal department, or most internal departments rather, have the ability to write what's called WACs, which are more kind of rules within the rules. Fine and good there. That often gets abused, though. This particular issue, though, has no WAC or legislative rule. He literally just came out and said, nope, these are illegal. They cover a crime, and that's not allowed. And he did that based on one court case. So legislating from the bench, he took away a membership plan here in Washington that had zero complaints against it. So in a consumer protection industry or position, as this is, he's protecting consumers for something they're not asking for protection from. They've actually bought these policies and love them. So that's something that came onto my plate after the fact. And this is one of the things that's great for libertarians, because this is or why libertarianism is great. You know, I stand for all your freedoms all the time. This wasn't my issue. I don't care that it's my issue, though. It's now my issue because I care that it's hurting other people that had something that they like and have had it taken from them.
Yep. All your rights all the time. Absolutely. Yes. Whether it's affecting you or me, all your rights. I love that so much. And what I think we see here is when people get afraid, they make bad decisions. When the group of people are afraid, they actually are happy when the government takes their rights away. They don't fight at all, right? So there were obviously there's a fear of mass shootings. So now the governor or a judge or a legislator says, let's pass this law attacking those evil guns, and people go, all right, yeah, they are evil, and that's what winds up happening. So I'm glad you're able to step up on that. So that's awesome. Are there other issues too, or just those two? That were your major?
Yeah, so those are two of the major kind of small issues I'm working on. But the overall fix I believe that we need in the kind of health insurance industry here, at least in Washington, is we need to go to a full a la carte system. So we'll go back to that grocery store analogy, right? When you decide, or even use a buffet analogy, right? When you go to the buffet and you want your breakfast, right? You know, Larry gets to decide, does he want sausage or does he want bacon, or maybe he wants both?
I want
right?
both.
Do you want? You know, I'm an either or, but it changes from trip to trip, right? So, you know, if you want coffee, you get coffee. If you want chocolate milk, you get chocolate milk, right? You get to decide what you want. But when it comes to health insurance, you get what your employer pays for, right?
Absolutely.
Or you get what the government says is allowed for your employer to offer.
Right.
That needs to change. We are a diverse nation, and we should be embracing that. And progressives love to talk about that diversity and how inclusive they are. But when it comes to things like healthcare, they're completely looking at it from the opposite perspective of making us all the same. Right. And, you know, what Larry and Anthony need are not necessarily the same thing. What, you know, Anthony's son and Larry's grandfather need are not necessarily the same thing. What men and women need are not necessarily the same thing. And we should be embracing that and looking for innovative ways to create policy types that are structured to you, the individual, and what you need and what you want. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, we could bring an a la carte system into the state of Washington that allows more flexibility, more choice, and people will genuinely be a little happier with their insurance, which is a positive thing, because right now everybody's just disgusted.
Absolutely, 100%. Do you think, as a general rule, the industry, the insurance industry or industries, I don't know if they're broken up in your state, are they pro Welti? Are they anti Welti? Do they not care? Where are their heads in general?
You know, big corporations like incumbents and then like the two-party system, right?
Sure.
You can see donation records of all these big corporations, and you could see in a lot of times they donate to both of the major two parties to really
Yes.
stroke their own interest. I'm not worried about the insurance lobby in that sense. I've made a promise to myself that I'm not taking any insurance lobby money, no corporate lobbyist money. I don't want to be influenced by them. But what I can tell you is consumers and insurance companies are both going to be happy with my type of leadership in Olympia, because I'm going to make everybody's lives easier with our ideas,
I
and
like
things
that.
will be cheaper and more profitable at the same time. And profit's not a bad thing. Profit is driven upon need and what we want.
Absolutely.
And only when we get what we want do profits truly go up,
Absolutely.
to their greatest ability. So I think with libertarians in office, we can find ways that everybody wins.
Yeah, I love the idea that, profit isn't bad, because that's how you get jobs, right? That's how people make money and pay their bills. I love that. Well, now that COVID's hit, right? And COVID is obviously scary. People are worried. People are scared about how things worked. And when all this hits, right, and things begin to change, has that changed your priorities or not? For some people, I know it's changed everything. Some people it hasn't changed much. How about you?
Well, two things. It's making campaigning extremely difficult. My whole campaign has been structured around traveling the entire state full time, literally going from one campsite to the next in a 27-foot travel trailer that we remodeled. And that's allowed me to do outreach every single day since September and meet
Sure.
people where they're at. The summer was going to be parades, street fairs,
Right.
sunburns, and blisters on my feet, right, from doing so much walking and door knocking and such. And now we just can't do that,
Right.
which is really tragic. From the platform, so to speak, that because of my position, because it's insurance reform, this has really not changed what I'm talking about. It's actually
Okay.
allowed me to further lean into the things, things like shortages of medical beds around the country is a topic that I was already talking about. Certificate of need laws,
Yes.
reducing cost of insurance and healthcare so that we don't go broke when things like a pandemic hit. Already
Right.
talking about that. Allowing more medical providers into the field
Yes.
quicker and easier so that we don't have some shortage of doctors, things of that nature. Had we removed these laws and made things easier, this virus probably wouldn't have had the same impact. Doesn't mean it wouldn't have existed, that there still wouldn't be some death and some stress on a system, because no business is going to plan for everyday use in a pandemic, right? It's always going to be stretched to the max in a pandemic. We could have transitioned a lot easier, I believe, with the ideas I've been talking about, and it definitely wouldn't have had the same impact. And going forward, we need to recognize that we didn't have enough beds, right? We didn't have enough medical supplies. So how do we fix that? And how we fix that is opening up the faucet instead of tightening it. And we need less regulation and more freedom so that the market can adapt to these changing times.
So you've rubbed a very important point. So then how do we adapt and make impact, right? I mean, what you're doing, crossing the state, it's what I was doing when I was running too. I get it. It's the right way of getting the most people to believe in you, see you. Oh, this guy, Welti, he's a real guy. I met him. I know him, right? He's not just some guy I see on TV. I met him. I know him. How do we make impact now? Is it still doing what you're doing and just doing less of it? Is it also adding this? What do you think the answers are?
Well, a part of it right now is wait and see, right? Because the governor gets to dictate some of what we're allowed to do. And the public isn't really looking to go out and meet and things of that nature. So a lot of what we've been focused on now is more the live stream and reaching out more via email and phone, which, libertarians should be good at that. We're really good at doing things from our keyboard, right? So, the cool thing about this is because I had started so early, right? The lockdown for us hit basically, late March. I already had a team set up. I already been fundraising. I already had name recognition because I started earlier. And not only that, I started earlier than most of the other candidates in the state, even for governor. I was the other than the incumbent that refiled 3 months after he won his 5th term. I was one of the first people in the state to file for office. So what was able to happen for our campaign is we just pivoted full speed ahead. We didn't miss a beat, right? We've been hosting live streams since May 15th and getting different guests on and talking about these teams and continuing to meet
May
people
15th.
where they're at.
Hold on,
Excuse me, March 15th. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. May 15th is tomorrow, so that'd be impressive if you've been doing that. It's great.
Filing week is crazy, man. My brain's getting a little crushed right now. But what was great is it because people were home and we were prepared to reach them while they were home via internet. We've had back-to-back some of the biggest months for social media reach.
Nice.
And it's been healthy for the campaign. It's been productive because frankly, you can get a lot more done making phone calls sometimes than you can driving from 3 hours to one meeting to 40 minutes to the next.
Absolutely.
So.
Yes. I remember when I would drive around the state, sometimes I'd have to be gone. You're gone always because you have to take your family with you. I didn't take my family with me, so I'd leave New York City on a Wednesday and not come back till the next Wednesday. That's what would happen. I'd go all around the state and come all the way back. It's 6 days away. I get it completely. And of a 16-hour work day, 6 or 8 of it's driving.
Yep.
I'm with you. 6 or 8 of it's in the car. It can be a pain. Absolutely. Yes.
I'm getting probably an easy 15 hours extra a week of productive time right now. And somebody that wants efficient government, right, that wants things to be cheaper as quickly as possible, right, I've been really embracing this efficiency that we have right now, and it's been healthy for the campaign. But I look forward to meeting people on the streets again and shaking hands and giving hugs. All
right. So speaking of that, shaking hands, giving hugs, meeting people, there's going to be a fear, right? And there's 2 parts of this fear that I'm worried about. Part number 1 is the fear of what you just said. When Anthony comes out, he's coming to our town. And they're like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to get out. I don't want to. I'm still scared, right? I'm still worried, right? I mean, if you look on CNN, there's a body count, right? There's literally a body count, right? That people can be afraid. Do I want to go out? Do I want to shake his hand? Do I want to get there in the crowd? So there's that part. But there's a secondary fear also. When people get afraid, they tend to fall back to their old ways, right? So if I lean left, I'm going to vote Democrat. If I lean right, I'm going to vote Republican because I'm scared. So I'm going to go back to my old ways. How do we get around those 2 fears? Or can we?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing for me is...
Well, hold on. Empathy. Someone thinks you need a megaphone from your RV. Maybe not a bad idea.
I was thinking about driving around with it and serving drinks out of the back of it, like ice cream truck style.
There we go. See,
I'm not quite audacious enough for the audacious caucus, so I can be a little more reserved than maybe I should be. But I thought that'd be fun, and I like serving drinks.
That's good. So how do we deal with those?
Empathy and willingness to understand somebody's perspective and heart and their lens, right? Again, the thing about the libertarians is, we're really good about seeing both sides in a lot of cases because we come from both sides, right? We've seen failure from both sides. It's not up to me to judge people if they are scared or are not scared right now. We're seeing a lot of pointing fingers at each other, right? You see the memes about the Karens and stuff, and the snitch lists and things of that nature. And
big deal.
What's happening in New York City. It's a big deal out here as well. We had I think 25,000 reports made, and most of it was actually just on a lot of it was medical providers, massage therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists, people just trying to make people healthier, help an immune system, right? Make the immune system stronger that would further fight the virus. But what's happened is, we've stopped pointing our fingers at, black inanimate objects like guns. And now we're pointing fingers at each other all of a sudden. Yes. And that's really scary to me that we've reached that point as a society. And my thing here is to just try to understand where people are, because if we can't understand each other, if we can't, even in disagreement, right? If we can't truly try to understand it and get to some place of coexistence with each other in the emotional sense of this, the policy is irrelevant.
Right.
If we hate each other and we're pointing fingers at each other, it's never going to happen. So I've really tried to focus on like things like coexisting and being
Mhm.
peaceful with one another, and that's ultimately what's going to lead to the most prosperous society. So that's where my heart has always been, and it's really, this virus is kind of forcing me to check myself even further, because I've
Sure.
got opinions on this whole thing, right?
Sure.
Um,
So no, what you're
some
saying is that old saying, right? People don't care what you know until they know that you care,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
the
and
empathy first is what you're kind of talking about.
yeah, and people are, a lot of people are scared to go out right now, and for them, their fear is legitimate. For the people that are fearful that government tyranny is taking over, they're losing their businesses. Their fear is legitimate as well. And we
Yep.
need to stop saying that, no, you're wrong and I'm right. We have to figure out ways to coexist peacefully, and to get back to like not hating each other. Like
Sure.
that's, so it's corny. It's frankly, even hearing me say things like that is corny. I'm not like the super emotional guy by any means, but the simple idea that the politics is irrelevant. We have
Right.
to get back to the culture
Right.
and the society and loving each other and just wanting everybody to be healthy and to prosper.
So let me ask you: is there a couple or one or a couple of kind of natural niches? People who are going to look at you and go, "Ah, Welty, that's my guy." Right. The second they hear you speak or see your platform, yep, I'm on board.
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally in Washington, because for the longest time I've been running against the longest standing career Democrat politician in the state, that my natural market has been more the right leaning.
Okay.
I've got a lot of good friends in the Patriot crowd here
Mhm.
in Washington, people that very, very much want small government and want freedom, and a lot of them are libertarian at heart. Some of them not
Mhm.
quite there, but they've really grasped onto my honesty and my consistency in messaging, and
Okay.
again, because I started so long for this campaign, and I've been fairly publicly active since basically the 2016 election, where I
Mhm.
was the Snohomish County director for Gary Johnson campaign. I've been out in the public eye to a certain extent for 3.5 years now. So people have grown to trust me because I've said the same thing for 3.5 years. I've
Right.
done the same thing for 3.5 years. I've shown
Right.
them that I am who I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. So the people have latched onto that because they've had an opportunity to really see who I am.
Right. Right. That consistency matters. I mean, I know a lot of libertarians don't like Bernie Sanders, and I understand that. I just want to give Bernie his props, though. I mean, the guy has made a mini movement, right? Because he's been saying the same stuff for years. He's been like, "This is what I believe. This is what I believe. This is what I believe." I mean, I'm not a fan of his policies, but when you push him, he's like, yeah, no billionaires, against the law, right? Money's bad. At least he doesn't back down from what he believes, right? And I get there's an attractiveness in that, in a trustingness that people go, oh yeah, at least that guy, he knows what he's doing. I mean, I'm
Well,
sorry,
there's
he believes what he's saying. Sorry, he doesn't know what he's doing. Let me take that back. He does not know what he's doing, but he believes what he's saying. I do think there is an attractiveness as a politician for that. I agree completely.
I think there's an attractiveness to that, and authenticity at
Yes,
the very
that's a
least.
better
But
word. Thank you. Authenticity.
there's also just basic marketing and branding, right? Name recognition, and that Apple, the Apple logo hasn't changed much over the years, right? A
Right.
couple colors changes, right? So people get to know it and trust it and buy it. So it's the same thing for us as politicians. Dirty word, I know. Um, Educators of the libertarian philosophy, and party members and party as
Sure.
a whole, is to stay active and consistent, and put our message out there. It's a saturation game and
Yes.
familiarity game, right? People just aren't familiar with us and familiar with ideas because there's not enough of us talking about it.
Sure.
Which is why statewide campaigns like mine that can help down ballot campaigns. Your governor race
Yes.
in 2018 doing the same thing, and
Yep.
then helping helping activists, get plugged in and stuff is just going to be so key, because the more of us that people see, the more ideas will just naturally connect with people that had
Correct.
just never
Yep.
heard of us before.
Absolutely. So let me ask you. Obviously, it's clear that you're raising money. You've built a team. You're crossing the state. You are obviously running this campaign to win, and I love that. I so love when libertarians actually run to win and don't just run to provide an option or just to have a name on a ballot. You're doing a whole lot more than that, and I love that. What happens if you don't win? Do you have a measurement? Or I was lucky in my race. I say it all the time. I ask this question. I feel bad sometimes because I didn't have to have it for my own race. Because for my own race, if I lose, I still get ballot access. That's my consolation prize, right? So yeah. I had an obvious win. Do you have an obvious secondary win or consolation prize?
Well, a couple secondary or thirds. I don't know how to say that.
Tertiary.
What?
Tertiary. Secondary, tertiary.
Tertiary. Okay, cool. See, I learned something today, Larry.
There we go.
Well, so a couple things. I'm winning no matter what here because the message of libertarianism is spreading. That moves the needle. No, win, lose, or draw, the needle is being moved in that respect. People are becoming educated. We're also going to win because people are becoming educated about the position of insurance commissioner, which they never knew existed before. I go out on the streets, literally, I heard a joke before that 99% of all statistics are made up, right? It's a kind of funny joke there in itself. Right. So I find it saying funny when I say this, that 99% of the people I meet on the street have no idea about this position. So we're educating the public. Empowerment through knowledge moves the needle. So we're winning no matter what here, incrementally. Right now, my benchmark is making it out of the primary. If I don't make it out of a primary, it's a complete failure. I will not, in the political sense, I will not be pleased. I'm fine with that. I'm a warrior in the sense that I like a good fight.
So your secondary win is actually just winning, getting past the primary.
That's the one of the wins, yes. And
got it.
For me, hold
on. A lot of people don't know how that works in your state. Tell me how your primary works.
Well, so we can have as many people on the ballot fairly easy here in Washington, although the governor did just make it illegal to gather signatures, so we can only pay to get on the ballot. So I actually petitioned the governor. This is a pretty neat thing here in Washington. I actually got 3 Republicans, myself and another Libertarian, and 2 progressive Democrats to all petition the governor together to reduce our ballot access rules, to make it easier for people to get on the ballot. So we were able to bring all 3 parties together with me as the lead and petition the governor. And unfortunately, he was the exact opposite. He made it harder to get on the ballot and ignored the letter. Actually, I know it hit his desk because he responded legislatively or executive order, but he did the exact opposite thing to make the election healthier. But anybody can run essentially here in Washington. We'd have 2, 3, 4, 5 people on the ballot in the primary, which is in August in Washington. The top 2 vote getters make it to the general election. So the taxpayers fund 2 elections here in Washington minimum every year. I think we're up to 2 special elections. So taxpayers have funded, I think 4 elections this cycle, instead of just doing it all at once with something like, maybe ranked choice voting or something of that nature, or even score voting. So for me, I've got a Democrat and a Republican just filed last minute here. And for me to make it to the general election in November, I have to beat either the Democrat or the Republican in the primary.
And when is your primary?
August 8th. So we got 9 weeks?
Got it. So guys, if you're in Washington State and you want to support this man, head on over to what you see right there, www.anthonywelti.com. He needs many things. Number 1, if you've got the cash, if you're in a position to where you can donate. Throw him a couple bucks here or there. It's going to help him out no matter what it is. Go ahead and help out. If you're not in that position, no worries. If you're in Washington State, reach out to him. Get on his volunteer team. Help him put together an event. Help him put together stuff. Show up. Get it. Be there to help drive him. Get some gas in his vehicle. Something like that. All good. And if you're not in Washington State, or even if you are and you can't do any of those things, you can still do the old social media warrior. He needs that too. He needs people to share, comment, all those things. Make memes, all those cool things. He needs it all.
My meme game is lacking right now. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed. So
see that?
Let's meme me up here if you can, guys.
There we go. He needs all those things. So if you've got the cash, go ahead. If you don't, if you're in a bad spot, I know a lot of people are because of this virus. I get it. No worries. Then there are other ways you can help. Right? There are other ways you can make that work. In fact, you can put a sign in your yard. You can absolutely do that. That would also help. Whatever you could do would be amazing. I love that. So I'm sorry I cut you off, but I wanted to make sure that people got that part. So in August, if you make it past the post, that's a win. You said you have another win you were thinking about also?
For me, if I'm being honest, right, my minimum to even feel good at this point, knowing the work I put in and the strategy that we've entailed, 45% is the minimum for me to even feel like we moved the needle. In Washington, we have a history that if it's in the general election, if it's a libertarian, you're pretty much guaranteed 30%, right?
Okay.
That's kind of what the minimum is in
a two-way race.
In a two-way race. So
got it.
For me, and that's with zero effort, that's just putting your name on the ballot, just getting 30% because you're not the other guy, right? So 30% is great. I love it. It's cool. It's spreading the message. For me, 45% is the minimum for me to feel like we moved the needle. We won people, right?
Gotcha.
We earned their vote. I believe with our ideas and the effort that we can put in, I believe we're going to win. That's not blowing smoke.
I love it.
That's knowing the optics of the race. I'm running against the longest standing career politician, but yet nobody knows who he is. He's got financial issues where he's caught funneling money to other candidates. He's been using his leftover campaign money as a slush fund for the department and paying for birthday parties and company softball leagues and stuff, or government softball leagues, instead of donating the money to charity, which is what most people would do. In my race, the commissioner actually got a huge salary increase a couple years ago, which is something I take big issue with. In Washington at the state level, the salary commission, which is an appointed board of a handful of, I think, 7 or 8 or 9, basically friends of politicians, right? Because if it's an appointed, they get to unilaterally make salary recommendations without public vote. So that's awesome. Oh, it's a great gig for those guys.
I put my friend on the board and say, "Hey, buddy, how much money should I make?" A lot, of course. You're my buddy. Yes.
Yeah. So when I filed for this position officially in 2018, the salary is $120K. It's gotten 2 raises in the last 2 years since then. It's up to $137,000. So he's making good money. He's been in politics forever. His pension's giant. And instead of donating his excess campaign money to charity, he turned it into slush fund for the department. And I want to do the exact opposite. I'm actually calling for a reduction in salary for all state level employees. I think it should be the state minimum. Maybe the state median salary. I think would be healthier than what they get right now. I think any raises politicians get should be 100% voted on. It should not be done by appointed commissions. But to actually walk that out and to actually show my heart for volunteerism, which is, I'm a volunteerist libertarian. That's where I kind of identify. Yep. In between the minarchist and anarchist and stuff, right? I just believe these programs and systems should exist voluntarily. But for me to walk that out, the year I quit my job, I was basically making $60,000. The position this makes is $137,000. I'm going to donate
nice
50.
Bump up.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It would be. But it doesn't feel right to me. And instead of just saying it doesn't feel right and then taking it, not only am I calling for that reduction permanently, I'm actually going to donate 50% of my salary to Washington state-based charities. So we're going to empower new charities to start up, people that have good ideas, that just need a little help and a little encouragement, a little empowerment. We want to help start some new charities in that respect. And I want to give money to other existing charities that are already doing good work. There's a handful of them here in Washington that work outside of government to fix, to provide solutions to people. And that brings me back down to the salary I was making before I ran for office, right? So the idea that politicians shouldn't profit from their government positions is something that first led me to libertarianism. Right. I started seeing all the money these guys were making and all the, the better health insurance they got, right? They say they want affordable healthcare for us, but they get a heck of a lot better healthcare than what the open market offers. So I really wanted to attack that at its root and be the guy that was willing to run for office and raise his hand and be like, this is bullcrap. Right. You guys shouldn't get paid this much. This is a volunteer. This is a service, right? You get paid more than soldiers that literally get shot at, and you get to sit behind a desk. Or right now, it's we've got grocery store. Yeah, they're sitting at home while essential workers take the risks, right, and of being in the public. So I want to talk about reducing their salaries. I want to emulate doing it myself voluntarily by donating
Sure.
50% of it. They'll make me take it, right? And I'll be damned
Yes.
if I'm going to just turn around and give it back to them.
Right.
So I'm going to put it back into the market, but the volunteer market, to set the example, will be like, look, this is what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know that they're not going to let me pass a law that reduces their salary. I know they're not going to let me pass a law
Right.
that makes all salaries publicly voted on. So let's emulate it. Let's raise the bar, right? Bring the bar up to here and say, hey, you got to get to where we're at now, right?
Right.
And if you guys want to limbo under it, we're going to call you out on it. And I believe this resonates with both sides of the aisle, because when you look at things like that, nobody's happy with politicians. You know, politicians and lawyers are like some of the most hated professions in the world.
This is an issue that, it's a little bit off topic, but this is an issue that does seem really weird to me, right? We as a nation, right? We don't like politicians. That's true. But man, we seem to be really liking our politician, right? It's those guys are all bad, but mine, oh, she's perfect. Oh, he's perfect. But they're all bad. Look, my congressperson is AOC. That's the district I live in. Yes, I accept your condolences. So, yes. So you will find people in the AOC go, oh, Congress is evil. Congress is bad. What about your congressperson? Oh, AOC, she's amazing. She's awesome. And I think that's common throughout the country. So while we don't like Congress or Washington, boy, do we just love our guy or our gal.
There's a lot of inconsistency there for sure, which is why, being consistent myself has really, again, exposed both sides there without making it personal, right? Because what I find is negative sometimes, or not negative, how should I say this? When you're in a debate with a friend or a family member or a stranger, right? When you attack somebody, they're going to go like this, right? They're going to put their hands up, right? And they're not going to receive anything you're saying, right? I see that in my marriage, right? Whenever we start getting frustrated with each other and attacking each other, it really quickly turns to the negative. I don't want to attack people in this. I want to attack the ideas and the societal structures that we've created, because it's not healthy. But less so than attack it, I want to emulate what I think the difference should be. And it's important to me to do that for my son. Most of it, like that fatherhood mentality there, to him is to do what I say and to act it out. So he sees me daily. Right. It's the same thing with libertarianism, right? We need to walk this out in our daily lives and emulate it so people can learn to love it and trust it. Because if we just tell them that their way is wrong all the time, they're probably just not going to like us very much. And there's right. And there's a time and place for putting our foot down, and and my wife knows this when it comes to boundaries, right? I'm a no compromise guy. But you can do it lovingly. You can do it with grace and kindness, and
you don't have to be a jerk.
Yeah, keeping our own hearts in check, and use words that are maybe less combative to the general public, right? Because the general public, they just don't know our ways.
That's exactly right.
We got to spread the gospel of libertarianism.
Absolutely, 100%. I love it. So look, Anthony, I love that you came on. I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, head on over to anthonywelti.com. Support him if you can. Particularly if you're in Washington State, oh my God, please do your best to help out in some way. Maybe put a sign in your yard, do some sharing and commenting. If you've got some cash, that's great. If you're in a good financial position, send him some so that he can keep going, guys. Anthony, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it, man. My campaign slogan for this is be free.
Right? I love it. Be free.
We need to be free again, where we haven't been for a long time, if we ever have been. And it means something to me to represent this party to the best of my abilities, and to help the party grow, help those around me, help down ballot candidates. So we've, the ones already here in Washington know that that's what we're doing. And it's from one of your speeches that you gave in Washington a couple years about infrastructure that really resonated with me. So thanks for leading from New York, and, hopefully we'll help out here in Washington, and we'll all kind of level up from here.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Larry.